I want to read this poem that recently changed my life, and then I want to talk about it. It's called Manifesto, The Mad Farmer Liberation Front by Wendell Berry. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay, want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die, and you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So, friends, every day, do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance. For what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant and that you will not live to harvest. Say that leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that profit. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful though you have considered all of the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth? Go with your love to the fields, lie easy in the shade, rest your head in her lap, swear allegiance to what is nighest your thoughts. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection. All right, so like I said, this poem, it's not a new one. It looks like it came out in 1973. Recently, though, I stumbled on it, and it's had a profound impact. I love it, and I just want to talk about it with everybody that I meet. I actually have been reading this poem to my 9-month-old, to my baby, in the evenings. I'll read this poem, and I'll just kind of like mull it over, and I'll think about it. And here's what I love about it. On the one hand, there's this angry energy, right, that it starts out with. And it's an angry energy I think we can all empathize with. It's this frustration that we're caught in these systems of value and recognition that we don't endorse, right? You could call this capitalism, and that's fine. But there are many such systems, right? There are many sort of powerful forces that kind of determine and shape our lives that we don't have any control over. And when those things are clearly motivated by greed or anger or lust, it's just so frustrating that we are stuck and trapped inside of those things. And so to use this poetry, this poetic mechanism to express resistance to those things, I mean, first off, I think that's just brilliant. It's just freeing, right? And the parody here, love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay, want more of everything ready-made, just leaning into the excess of consumption of, the worst parts of the culture and society that we feel part of. For me, it's just a very powerful sort of way of entering into this mode of thought. And from there, it just gets better. I love the idea. So here's a line that I love in this poem. It says, so friends, every day do something that won't compute. And throughout the poem, the author, the poet, returns to this idea, right? That if these, modes of thinking and engaging and interacting, whether that be the forces of capitalism or other societal sort of structures or concepts, whatever it is, if these ways of understanding ourselves, of making ourselves intelligible to ourselves and to other people, if those things are, trapping us, if they're imprisoning us, his advice is to just do something that doesn't compute, right? Do something that's going to confuse, as he says at the end, the politicos and the generals, right? And I think that, again, is just a very powerful call. It's a way of acknowledging that as human beings, we often understand at a deeper level what we ought to do. And sometimes it's at such a deep level that we understand more than we can articulate, more than we can say. And this, for me, it took a long, long time for me to sort of appreciate and understand that. As an intellectual, as a philosopher, I've long sort of privileged rational thought and explicit rational thought. Here's the premise, here's the argument, here's the claim, make it clear. And if somebody couldn't explain themselves thoroughly, right, and respond to every objection that I might raise, I would, look down on that, or I would think like, oh, that's not, rational, or that's not well grounded. But here we have a challenge, and one that upon reflection is just true, right? It's often the case that we know what we should do, even if we can't explain ourselves. And one of the beautiful things about poetry in general, about this poem, and about poetic traditions, inside and outside of, philosophy, which is kind of the tradition that I'm a part of. And here in particular, I'm thinking about sort of scriptural traditions, the Bible, faith traditions, right? One of the beautiful things about these traditions is that they privilege the simple act, say, of love, or the simple act of generosity. If you're confused by all of the cultural and societal and political forces, all these systemic things that are just flying around, if you're confused by the rhetoric, by things people are saying, one bit of advice that you can always sort of fall back on and reliably sort of take to heart is to just do what's right, to do the simple act, right? Love the Lord, love the world, work for nothing, take all you have and be poor, right? Or later on he says, expect the end of the world, laughter is immeasurable, be joyful though you have considered all the facts. Just all of these simple acts, these simple attitudes that, as he articulates them, seem contradictory, seem to point in different directions, and yet we can see that each of the directions that they're pointing in is this deep and beautiful truth. This is the last thing I'll say, but Parker Palmer, who is one of my favorite recent sort of discoveries. He's a thinker, he's an author, an activist, a poet, I don't know, all the different things that he is. But he just has this beautiful reflective mode of thought. And one of his favorite sort of subjects of contemplation is the deep paradox. And not just things that are paradoxical, they're just, silly and kind of, obviously like something's going wrong, like, like a logic puzzle or something like that. But deep paradoxes where the opposite of one deep truth, as he puts it, is another deep truth, right? And so here, I think Wendell Berry is inviting us into these kinds of paradoxes and allowing us to see that maybe the contradiction is in the way that we are rationally representing or symbolizing or thinking, creating structures, conceptual structures, societal structures, whatever, instead of in sort of reality itself, right? So again, the idea is that in a deep paradox, in a deep helpful paradox, maybe what's going on is that we're reaching the limits of reason, maybe just our own reason. Maybe our concepts aren't fully developed enough to really grasp what's going on, right? Or maybe reason itself. Maybe we haven't come up with the right concepts to grasp reality. And in that situation, when there's a difference between what you think you know is right, the right thing to do, and what seems right based on your rationalization, your sort of understanding of the world, your conceptual schema or structures, Wendell Berry is encouraging us to do the first thing, to do what seems right, to love the Lord, to love the world, to praise ignorance, because what man has not encountered, he has not yet destroyed. It's encouraging us to trust ourselves, to trust sort of our intuition, which is not at odds with learning, with growing, with developing, with challenging ourselves. But it is something that we often miss. I often miss it. And this poem just really in a beautiful way just encapsulates kind of that approach to life, to one's own life, to self-reflection, to reality. And I just really wanted to share it with you all.